Good morning. 25 of Adar. Gadol Torah. Torah is great, and especially when you make fixed times for learning, it's even greater. It penetrates deeper. Because why is Torah great? Chazal say because it gives healing to all living things. Who needs a healing?
Shmuel ben Devarleah, Shmuel ben Merav, Hillel ben Hillel, Barak Yehuda ben Yehudis, Yehudis Golda bas Elizahana, Chaim Yaakov Zev ben Sarah, Yosef Yosek ben Lior, Shoshana bas Hana, Gary Roberts, son of George, Yaakov Shaul ben Hana Miriam, Yehudit Geula bas Rachaleah.
For Shlema Bekorev, Tuvia ben Avram, Tova Miriam bas Chana Rachel, Yair ben Adela, Mordechai Yehuda ben Chana, Yisrael ben Yamin ben Leah Gittel, Devorah Leah bas Rusa Huva Liba, Rivka Mina bas Chaya Esther. Yes.
Shalom Dov ben Rachel Bela, and I did speak with the Rebbitzin last night, and he's doing well, thank God.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Okay. Hayom Yom. Today's Hayom is very short. It's one of these instructions in davening that after the Shir Shel Yom, the Tillim we say every day. Yeah, we say Hashienu Hashem Elokeinu. And this is said after the Tillim on weekdays, Shabbos, festivals, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. In other words, we always say it after the Bittul Tillim. And it ends with Malach Kavod Hashem es kol ha'oretz, that the glory of Hashem should fill the earth, which is the subject of today's Tanya. Lessons in Tanya, page 494. In Lakuti Amorim, yeah, page 94, counting from the bottom up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines up over on the left. Ume'achar, that's where it begins. So essentially what we have said, and the content basically of this whole, of the last two, of this whole parak, Lamed Zayin, is the advantage of the animal soul. The advantage of the animal soul is that it has huge amounts of power. It's the source of all animus. It's the source of all animation. And it's designed to work in tandem with the Nefesh Elokis. All you have to do is blow the clippers out of the way. Gone. Pierce this shell, right? Unfortunately, the animal soul in a Jew is only got a thin shell. It's called klippus noiga, a shell that light can shine through. And me'acha, and I will start. And when or since the whole generality, meaning all the nefoshes, animal souls, and the source of the animal soul, the nefesh chiyunis, which exists in the whole generality of the Jewish people, when that animal soul, the individual animal soul in each of us, and the klalistika animal soul at its source, the source of it, the big animal up above, when that becomes a tia, will become a markova kedusha Hashem, a chariot to the holiness of Hashem, the animal soul being the one that has the strength, the power to lift up the godly soul. As I think I've mentioned this around Hanukkah, around Purim time. When Haman asks Achashverosh what should he do to someone he wants to honor, and the king says to him, give him the garment, the lavush, and the crown, and the stallion, the mitler and the horse. The mitler Rebbe says in his Purim, long Purim Maimah, that the horse lifts the man to a place that the man can't get to on his own. The animal soul actually lifts up the godly soul. And then the whole construct becomes a chariot to the Kedusha, the holiness of Hashem. Azai, when that happens, so Gam Klalas Achayis Shel Olam Hazeh. So when that happens, then the entire generality of the life force of this world, Shehi Klippus Noiga, which is Klippus Noiga, Achshav now, Tetse Oz Mitumas Vechalosa, it goes out, it leaves its impurity and its illness, but Ta'ala L'Kedusha, and is raised to holiness. When each of us individually do it, and when Klal Yisrael does it as a klal, as a community, then the animal soul reveals its ability and reveals what it was created for in the first place, to take a rider and take that rider to a place that he couldn't go to without the rider, which is the Hisgalus of Elokus, the revelation of Elokus that only comes from subjugation, quote, and / transformation of the animal soul. The Esmar Kavala Hashem, so that the animal now lifts up the godly soul, and the whole operation is a riding chariot to Hashem. Behisgalus Kavoidai, which is the words we use from this Hashenu that it ends with, and what's revealed is the revelation of God's glory. V'rol kol basar yaktov, and all flesh will see His unity. Ve'afia aleihem b'chadar go'oid, and there will appear over them the splendor, the glory of His beauty, of His strength, and His strength uzeh, and His strength. V'yamali kavod Hashem as kol ha'oretz, and the whole earth will be full of the glory of Hashem. Yisrael yira'u ayin be'ayin, and the Jewish people particularly will have a recapitulation of Matan Torah. We will see eye to eye, Kibba Matan Torah, as we did at Matan Torah. You can see about where, and as Matan Torah is written, Ato horeso ledas, you have been given to see, horeso ledas. Your knowledge, your awareness has become actual visualization. That's what happened in Matan Torah. Hashem hu Elokim. And what did you see? You saw that Hashem is Elokim. That the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the eternal effusion that invests itself in everything, is what's enlivening and responsible for all the order and the factuality of existence. Ein oid. And you will see that there is no other. Ein oid mavado. You will see that there is no other besides Him. And through this process of breaking through, we've had many words: shattering, subduing, transforming, opening up. Open your eyes, opening up the light klippa. Is alu, then through that, is balu with his batlu lagamri, then there will be literally swallowed up and nullified completely, kol hasholish klippas atameus, all the unclean klippas. He explains why. What does the klippas noiga have to do with the unclean klippas? Key, because in ikos son, they're sucking, meaning they're nurturing them, which be the there is the unclean klippas, v'chayu son, and their life force, meha kedusha, which everything gets its life from kedusha. So the unclean klippas also are getting life from kedusha. So the way that happens now, arshav, he al yedei klippas noiga, is through the intermediary of the klippas noiga. You have kedusha, klippas noiga, and gimel klippas atameus. So there's a chain. The kedusha gets invested in klippas noiga, and then if what we have been saying so far does not happen, it can seep down into the gimel klippas atameus. So that klippas noiga is the intermediary, hamamutze b'neihem, between kedusha, holiness, and the three unclean klippas. Benimsa, so it comes out. Ki kol tachlis shel yemos hamashiach v'techias hamesim. The whole end game, the whole purpose of the ways of the Messiah and the resurrection of the dead Jehu Gili Kavoide Velakusi Zborach, which is a revelation of God's glory and godliness. Lahave Ruach Hatuma Mina Oretz, to push away, move away all the uncleanliness from the earth. That all of that, and this is a big underline, this whole paragraph as can be held in one's head. The whole purpose of all of what we're talking about, this avoida, polyu, depends, it depends on the drawing down of godliness, the ordinance of Baruch Hu, and the light of the Infinite One, blessed be He, the nefesh achiyunis, drawing it down into the animal soul. It's not sufficient. It's not what God has in mind to, for instance, just be contemplating. It needs to come down to the lowest of the levels of the animal soul, which, of course, we've been saying over and over and over again, is the lavush, the garment of deed, action. The whole purpose of this creation, and we in it, is that we become instruments of drawing down Kedusha into the lowest level. We're going down to language here of the infinite light, Nefesh HaChayunis, to the enlivening soul, Shebeklalus Israel, throughout the entire generality of all the Jewish people, Bechol Remak Evoreha, with all into all the 248 limbs of the Nefesh Bahamas. Al Yedei, how? Kiyumas called Remak Mitzvahs Aseh, 248 positive mitzvahs, draw down 248, as you will, strands, hamshachas, bringing down of Kedusha to the 248 powers of the animal soul. Lahavi Ruach HaTuma, in order to clear away the spirit of uncleanliness, memenu, from her, from the Nefesh HaChayunis. B'shmiras kol shesal mitzvahs leisaseh. And we do that by not giving any life to that part of the Nefesh Bahamas, which can be drawn into the Gimel Klippos of Timaeus. This is holding back that life force so it doesn't go there, and that's the 365 negative commandments, which we restrain from. In order that the Nefesh HaChayunis, the enlivening soul, doesn't have any suckling, literally any sucking from any kind of negativity, and her 365 sinews are not getting any life from anything other than Kedusha. That's the mitzvahs lo saseh. Ki klalos Yisrael, because the whole generality of the Jewish people, shehem shishiv ribin neshomes pratius, which the generality of the Jewish people, not the specificity, but the general source of the Jewish people, is 600,000 sparks, which are 600,000 neshama, specific pratyas, specific souls. These 600,000, hem klalos hachayis shel klalos ha'olam. Our neshamas are the general vitality of the entire world. Ki b'shvilom nivra, because it's for the sake of these souls, our avoida, using the powers that God has given us in these souls, that the world was created. We call prat mehem, and each and every one of these 600,000 specific root souls, he koilo the shayach loy chayes shel chelak echad meshishim ribei meklalos ha'olam. Each one of the spark has a specific alignment with all the sparks that are in the entirety of the world. And all of this is hatolyu benafshe hachayunis. All of this depends on the engagement of the sparks of our godly soul with the 613 animal powers, right? The 613 limbs, organs, vessels, etc. of the body, which are the manifestations of the animal soul. Lahaloi soy, to lift up that animal soul to Hashem, balioso, in its giving it its elevation through the infusion of the power of the godly soul into the animal soul. One way of looking at this, if you take the metaphor of the stallion, is a stallion gets trained from being a wild horse to being a racehorse or to be a carrying horse. He gets trained by the man. So the man here is the nefesh elokis, it's the godly force, trains the animal soul to bring out, not to change its nature, but to bring out its inherent nature of wanting to be aligned with Hashem in the first place and wanting to help the man get from the low place to a high place. Dahainu, b'mashem mishtamish be'olam hazeh. And how do we do that? How do we train the horse? Well, we eat, drink, and do everything, our relationships with each other, which are done, of course, through our power of animation, of animus, which is our body, our thought, speech, and action, and all of our limbs. We do this by training it in every encounter that we have with a piece of food or with another human being to be expressed, that in that encounter should be expressed Kedusha, holiness. Through that which we use and occupy ourselves in, and we use out Olam Hazeh, l'tzorek gufoi, for the necessities of our body, v'nafshe hachiyunis, and for the necessities of their animal soul, but in a way that's aligned with and in accordance with the Torah. In other words, put the animal in service, levoidus Hashem, to the service of Hashem. Kigoyin, and he gives examples, which I've kind of mentioned shortly, in a short way. Achila v'shtia, eating and drinking. Drinking, of course, and eating things which are kosher, but also eating them in a way which one is eating them with a mind to utilizing the energy from them for all kinds of holy, godly acts. Kigoyin achila v'shtia, the demehim, and things like that. V'dira, one's house. We call kli tashmishov, and all the vessels that you have, that you use. Now, we said there are 600,000 root souls, and there are 600,000 times 600,000, as we're about to say. These 600,000 root souls, Elohein shorshim, they are rooted, they are roots. The kol shoresh, and each root, each one of the 600,000 root souls, Mischalak l'shishim ribei nitzotzos, divides into 600,000 sparks. So where are you up to? Up to the trillions. The trillions, I think, if we do that. I mean, if I'm doing the math right. I don't know if I am. Someone can correct me if I'm not. But if 600,000 times 600,000, I think it's 36 trillion. Could be bigger. Nevertheless, you get the idea. Shekol nitzus hu neshama achas, and each spark of the 600,000, each 600,000 subdivision of those is a spark of one soul. V'chein, one root soul. V'chein the nefesh ruach, and also not only the neshama, but also the two other levels of the soul, the nefesh and the ruach. B'chol oilam, each, and this occurs, and these sparks are sparked out and are illuminating in each and every world. The Arba Oilam is from each of the four worlds. Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, B'Asiyah, which are the four worlds. And that's today's Tanya. Okay. Good? Not good? Clear?
It's clear. It's clear.
Good. Okay. I wait for that. Good. I
Thank
guess
you.
somebody should get in the habit of doing that, because otherwise I'm just sitting here
It's
looking.
a lot. It's like very lofty expectations. It's
It certainly is. But we're built for it.
right.
We're built for it, you know. Tivia, your hand is up.
It's a different perspective from the Hayom Yom from today's Adar Sheni.
Tell us about read it for us.
What does it say that Hasidic saying? What is forbidden, but what's permissible is unnecessary. So that, you know, if you take that at face value, it just sounds like total asceticism, which is right. Completely different.
So therefore, don't take it at face value. Look into those words, right? the pleasure for its own sake is not what it's about. That's what is unnecessary. The pleasure that it is about, it has pleasure, right? And let's be very clear about that. That it, if what's the word? Asceticism, thank you, is the engagement in a very cold way with physical things. Kedusha doesn't imply that you're cold to it. You're hot to it, but your heat is a heat of Kedusha and not a heat of the other side. You're hot to trot. You want to lift that thing up, but not just have pleasure in it for its own sake. So today's Tanya sort of is an explication of that Yom Yom.
Yeah, it really needs that, because
Yeah.
somebody just coming to the Hayom Yom on its own,
Yep.
it gives a very, very different impression, and it sounds like the ultimate to be a chassid is to
Be an ascetic.
live with a skafia about at all times,
Right.
and that's just not it at all.
The same is true, by the way, of the Tanya. And because at the beginning, I don't know if you were here when we started this year, but there's so much language in the Tanya about beating it and subjugating it and pushing it down and breaking it. And all of those that needs to be understood in the larger light of how Hasidus understands those terms. And you're right, because it can, it's important. It's critical. I mean, and when I say that it's important, and maybe even you and others can vouch for this, seeing kids raised in Hasidic schools, they don't necessarily come away with the kind of understanding that we're talking about today. And sometimes there's some damage.
Can you repeat again your understanding of the Hayom Yom she just read?
Sure. Tzivia, just remind me, what's the last word in the Yom Yom?
I don't have it in front of me right now.
But the idea was that when it comes to worldly pleasures, that you shouldn't be cooking in those pleasures. You should be cold to them, and you should be, and the word that she used, which would seem to promote a certain kind of asceticism, meaning not having anything to have as little as possible to do with the physical, as little to do with the physical as possible, which is what ascetics do. They remove themselves from it. And our Tanya says, no, get into it. Your whole purpose is to mavara, to rectify those things. So when it says to not get into them, and whatever that word is, it means don't take them just for their own sake. That will lead you down the slippery slide toward indulgement, right? Indulgement for its own sake. Don't indulge in them for their own sake. Treat them as they're meant to be treated, with complete 100 and 101% involvement of your godly soul in it, in order to not only lift them, but to pierce their darkness, their klippa, so that they can help lift you.
But it really takes a broadness I hear what you're saying, but it takes such a broadness to interpret it this way. And it always leaves me wondering why the Rebbeim wrote it, leaving for such a error.
Okay,
or was this for a different time that they could not take pleasures in the world?
The Hayom Yom is a little more subtle than that. It's not just reject everything. It's more like, okay, forbidden is very clear, black and white. You don't do it. Permissible, in other words, the noga, you don't need it. Not like, oh, it's terrible. More like, you don't need it. It's a gray area. You don't need it. So it's
okay.
yeah. That's the way I first heard it, and it was always like,
right.
Well, no, come on, that's not. That's going too far. We can't. That's not for us. And it isn't, because it really is subtle.
It is subtle. It's very subtle. And there were times in history, as you know, and up to recent times even, when asceticism was practiced by very holy religious Jews. But that's not the the lens that that Hasidus sheds on it. In fact, that's one of the things that the Baal Shem Tov came to elucidate, shed light
And
on.
yet the Rebbe put this saying into Hayom Yom.
Okay.
Right, that's what I'm struggling with.
And I mean, it is a foundational saying in Hasidus, so we can't just say, well, never mind, we learn it differently, but it's there.
It's not never mind we learn it differently. It's let's learn it correctly. I hear you. I hear all of you. I mean, the words are it's understood. These are harsh words that could create a certain, and do sometimes create, if they're not elucidated by other things. So you have to learn Hasidus in a context. Yeah.
So
And
if that goes for Hayom Yom, it's I don't know if people learn Hayom Yom in detail like this. A shir in Hayom Yom. Hayom Yom is it would seem like in most cases each Hayom Yom stands on its own.
I don't know. I mean, it's part of Hasidus, and you have to learn Hasidus.
And this saying that says that teachers shouldn't create something that's going to be misunderstood.
Sure.
And this is clearly such a strong statement that's misunderstood.
Sharif, do you want to add to this conversation?
Yeah, I would. Hi, thank you. Baruch I'm back in Israel at the beach. We have to read the whole thing. You have to put it in context. You're talking about preparing for Yachidus to go into the Rebbe to ask for avoda. So this is somebody, first of all, who's working on themselves in avoda and wants to get on a certain level. It's not a generality. It says it's something for somebody who wants to prepare for Yachidus and to ask for guidance in avoda. So I don't think it's like a generality. I think it's important that you could have just said that one little piskam and that's it, but there's the context.
Yeah, but still, as the people are saying, why express it in words that could be misunderstood?
Well, there's always that. If somebody wants to misunderstand.
I mean, like I said, you have the same question on the beginning parts of Tanya with all that language about hitting it and banging it and crushing it,
It, again,
but
in the context where you have to know where you're holding. You have to know where you're holding.
I'll give you one simple example. If crushing it, there's a whole Chassidus built on crushing an olive and crushing a grape, right? You crush the grape and the wine comes out. You crush the olive and the ability to create a flame comes out. So crushing doesn't have to be taken in a negative way. It can be taken as a positive way.
It's refining.
Yeah. Opening it up. But nevertheless, we're left with those words, and these are, I think, good questions. Why the Rebbeim were insensitive to the fact that they could all be misunderstood? But so I have no answer to that, except that you have to learn more. That's all.
Yeah. It can all be misunderstood if you go in the wrong, go to an extreme or wrong direction.
I'll leave you with one big extreme. Once upon a time, I was reading the history of Shabtai Tzvi and the whole movement that took place in the 1600s that led tens of thousands of Jews into a total mistake, which was pretty amazing in itself since there was no electronic communication. If you see, as I did learn there, the extent to which the heresy of Shabtai Tzvi spread throughout all Europe was vast. And so he takes a very simple and fundamental teaching in the Torah, Ein od milvado, right? There is nothing besides Hashem. So if there's nothing besides Hashem, then everything is Hashem, right? And if everything is Hashem, and Hashem is only good, Shabtai Tzvi innovated a brocha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shemater hakoil. Blessed is God who permits everything. So there's one expression. There's only Hashem, and that can lead you down a slippery slide. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, Mir Hashem.
It's Hashem. Thank you.